Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Daivim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai Shrimad Bhagavad Gita as it is ki jai, Granth Raj Shrimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Kartik Maas ki jai, Shri Govardhan Puja ki jai, Jai Shri Deepavali Mahotsav ki jai, Shri Gurudev ki jai, Jagat Guru Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Nitai Gaur Chandra Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Shrimati Mahavishnu Goswamiti Namine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurmani Prasarine Nirvishesha Shandavari Prasatire Sarine. Hare Krishna. Okay. Can you please unmute yourselves? Hare Krishna. Everybody's doing all right?
Hare Krishna. Yes, bro.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Okay. Sorry, I had to tend to a few things. I had to respond to some messages and all that on my Facebook account, but a bit delayed. Okay. Everybody happy, wishing everybody have very happy Deepavali and Govardhan Puja. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Happy Diwali.
Very nice. Very nice. Did you all cook some big feast today?
Not so big, Prabhuji. It was working.
Working.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all right. Okay, well, we will have a program on Saturday anyways, so we'll have we'll have a fish there, Okay. All right. So, who would like to give us a quick snapshot of what was discussed, please? Thank you. Please get the volunteers out because I'm going to ask you individually. Okay.
I can try, bro.
Yep, please.
You.
I don't know who's speaking. Sorry.
Sorry, Prabhuji. Avinash Prabhu is speaking. So
I thought you wanted to speak.
yeah, I can summarize, Prabhuji, but I think I was a bit away for 5-6 minutes last, so that part was missing in my notes. Do you want me to recap what I have, Prabhuji?
Yes, bro.
So, Prabhuji, I think, yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. Yeah, last time actually, 19th of October, we discussed about, we started from the point where actually we discussed, I think yogis failed to catch or achieve Krishna, as Paramatma, whereas Yashoda Mataji was also chasing Krishna, and she already, catch him. We also discussed Krishna was very afraid of, Mother Yashoda's stake. Yogis are actually afraid of Krishna. And there was actually discussion of the Vedic culture was being very strong, and where Mother Yashoda was actually running behind Krishna, and she already catch Krishna. And then probably I missed some points because I have to walk away for far. And then when I joined, actually we discussing chapter 11 from the Bhagavad Gita, the Manusha Nam Sahasreshu, where you gave the reference, and where you discussed the Mother Yashoda actually capturing Krishna. Also, you gave the reference of Bhagavad Gita 6.1, where it says the yogis, they sit quietly in a cave and they renounce everything, life, family. Then they can actually able to realize the God. Whereas devotees are not attached. The devotees are not attached to fruits of action. Because of this, they are a true mystic. Again, from 6.8 reference from Bhagavad Gita, where it says that renunciation is no desire for sense gratification. Renunciation is same as a yoga, and all activities, comparing to Mother Yashoda, all activities in Mother Yashoda Mataji's home was done everything for Krishna. So everything was service for the Krishna. So all the activities that were performed. Where we also discuss where yogis normally they do not understand how to actually seek association of Krishna. One who has already attained yoga, cessation of the material activities was ultimate aim there. Whereas a Mother Yashoda is already attained this, as she's not engaged in any kind of sense gratification, nor she's attached to any prithvi or material activities. And Krishna, when actually Mother Yashoda catch Krishna, where Krishna admit himself to be offender, and where we discuss how Mother Yashoda was actually looking upon him, that's Krishna, and he is crying, and his tears are actually flowing from his eyes, and they're actually mixed with the ointment in his eyes, and it was all smeared all his face. So when Mother Yashoda realized that Krishna is actually very afraid and is crying, then actually she quietly, tried to calm him or actually chastise him. However, she's chastising, she's not really angry. Also, we discussed that most of the yogis, or even the most powerful, the Yamraj, he also fears Krishna. But here, the position of the actually pure devotee like Mother Yashoda, where Krishna is actually afraid of her. So actually, this shows the real position of a pure devotee, contrast to the yogis and jnanis position, who actually spend, many years or thousands of years just meditating and sense control and all that. So we discuss that actually, we compare the actually bhakti yoga process where the pure devotees position versus yogis and jnanis. I think that's where we concluded this session, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, do you want me to share?
Hare Krishna. Avinash, you want to say something?
Yes, please. Srila Prabhu has covered. Do you want me to also recap? Or is that okay? What he said.
Sorry, your voice came and gone. I couldn't hear you.
I don't know why my voice is Prabhu.
Sorry, Prabhuji, you didn't listen what I said.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Can I log out, log in again?
You want to log on, log in again? Huh? You can do it. Yeah.
Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, did you hear what I said, or it's not actually? I'm also not audible. Krishna?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Yeah, I can hear you.
I think Amrish
Clear.
Prabhu can't hear me probably. That's why.
Yeah, I think Amrish Prabhu and Avinash Prabhu got connection issues.
I'm connected now. My voice is still open. I don't know.
Avinash Prabhu, did you actually hear when I was speaking?
Yes, yes. My problem is that my voice is going.
It look like Amrish Prabhu is not listening, what we're talking. Maybe his problem at his connection.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, yes. Now I can hear Avinash Prabhu also nicely,
No, Prabhuji, did you hear when I was speaking, or we miss all the points?
No, I heard.
So yeah, there was initially, Prabhuji, there was some points I missed, when I was absent for a few minutes.
Yeah. No, that's all right. That's all right.
So Avinash Prabhu, you maybe, do the recap that will cover those points.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, can you hear me now?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah, please continue, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu. I don't know what. So I've logged in from my mobile phone now.
Yeah, this is much better.
Yes. Okay, Prabhu. So can I also share what after what Sri Prabhu has said? Is that okay, Prabhu?
Yeah, please.
So I would like to share those pastimes, the pastimes of Krishna and Yasoda Mata, which Amrish Prabhu very nicely shared. And thank you, Amrish Prabhu, for all the efforts you put in. So what I remember, Prabhu, and what I realized that Krishna at that time was sitting on an upside down wooden mortar for grinding spices and was distributing milk preparations such as yogurt and butter to the monkeys as he liked. Because of having stolen, he was looking all around with great anxiety, suspecting that he might be chastised by his mother. Mother Yashoda, upon seeing him, very cautiously approached him from behind. That's what you explained very nicely, and you explained the difference, that how come Mother Yashoda, a devotee, can catch Krishna. Krishna cannot be caught unless Krishna want to get caught. And the next pastime you referred was that when Lord Krishna saw his mother stick in his hand, he very quickly got down from the top of the mortar, began to flee as if very much afraid. Although yogis tried to capture him as Paramatma by meditation, desiring to enter into the effulgence of the Lord with great austerities and penances, they failed to reach him. But Mother Yashoda, thinking that same personality of Godhead, Krishna to be her son, began following Krishna to catch him. So, yeah, Sri Prabhu covered the difference between yogis and mystics and a devotee. And you also referred verse number 2 from chapter 6 about who real devotees and who is yogi. And you also discussed about avajananti mam mudha manushim tanumashritam param bhava majananto mam bhutam maheshwaram. And then you also talked about while following Krishna, Mother Yashoda let her. Yeah, you talked about that, how the flowers were falling from here, and in spite of that, she could actually catch, and how nicely that scene was described in our Bhagavatam, and how complete our scriptures are. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. So we'll continue with our discussion now. This is a very nice verse, Tyaktva yashtim sutam bhitam vignayar bhagavatsala iyesha kilatam baddhum damna tad virya kovida. You see, so Tyaktva yashtim sutam bhitam. Bhitam means being afraid. Sutam means the sun. So throwing away, Tyaktva, thereafter she threw away, Yashtim, the stick in her hand. So Mother Yashoda was always overwhelmed by intense love for Krishna. See, not knowing that Krishna was or how powerful he was, not knowing the position of Krishna. Because of material affection, maternal affection for Krishna, she never cared to know who he was. Therefore, when she saw that her son had become excessively afraid, she threw the stick away and desired to bind him so that he would not commit any further naughty activities. See here, we may think that she wound Krishna because she was angry at Krishna for Krishna's mischievous things. But as we know that she smiled at him and she smiled at his naughtiness, his intelligence, As Prabhupada says, sometimes naughty children are more clever. So Mother Yashoda was always overwhelmed by intense love for Krishna, not knowing who Krishna was and how powerful he was, is the first point. Second is that because of maternal affection for Krishna, she never even cared to know who he was. And third point is, therefore, when she saw that her son had become excessively afraid, she threw the stick away and desired to bind him so that he could not commit any further naughty activities. Okay. Now, Mother Yashoda wanted to bind Krishna not in order to chastise him, but because she thought that the child was so restless that he might leave the house in fear, and there would be another disturbance, another problem. Sometimes children become very fearful, so they may leave the place, thinking that this is going to be difficult to live here right now, or something they may do which is not very good. Therefore, because of full affection for Krishna, making sure to stop him from leaving the house, she wanted to bind him with the rope. And she wanted to impress upon Krishna, to show Krishna that since he was afraid of seeing the stick in her hand, he should not perform such disturbing activities. That's what her intention was, just to show with a stick in her hand. Just to show, not to beat, actually. Like breaking the yogurt, pot of yogurt, then butter, distributing it to the, monkeys and all that. Mother Yashoda did not care to understand who Krishna was and how his power spreads everywhere. This is an example of pure love for Krishna. See, we all love Krishna because he is God. And they love Krishna because he's Krishna, because of his pastimes. So it's very important to understand the pastimes of Krishna in our love for Krishna. And again, the problem is if you are learning the pastimes of Krishna, it's very difficult for us to jump to the pastimes of Krishna. You see, when our basics are not very clear, the basics are not clear at all. Like there are also books written where even the non-living beings are alive in the spiritual world. There's nothing which is non-living in the spiritual world. Everything is alive. So there is a reason for the boiling of the milk also. But these are all at different stages of our devotion that we come across and we study. But gaining that knowledge should culminate into our purified chanting. Our constant remembrance of Krishna is the most important thing. How much we remember Krishna, that we cannot tell people. How much we remember Krishna cannot be told this to people. We don't require certificate from anybody else. How much I remember Krishna. As Prabhupada says, that just like when you're eating something and you feel full, satisfied, you don't go and ask somebody else how satisfied I am. I've eaten now 3 chapatis. I'm feeling full. Am I looking full? It doesn't work that way, is it? It doesn't work that way. Similarly, how much we attach to Krishna is our own judge. How much we remember Krishna. I may show myself to be very big devotee, and but my remembrance of Krishna may be very little as compared to you. So here Mother Yashoda loved Krishna because he was Krishna. And these are the pastimes which Krishna has been performing since eternity. This is what they are absorbed in. So the more we can think about this, the more we know about it, the more we think about it. The more we think about it, more we remember about it. And as we remember, the more we can preach. Ultimate thing is preaching. As Srila Gurudev says, that those who read don't understand, those who preach only they understand. And this is the fact. Those who are not preaching, they are a different level of understanding than those who are preaching. They are a different level of understanding. Then the famous verse comes, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has no beginning and no end, no exterior, no interior, no front and no rear. In other words, he's all pervading. The first point. Second point is that because he is not under the influence of time element of time, of the element of time, for him there is no difference between past, present, and future. He exists in his own transcendental form at all times. Third, being absolute beyond relativity, he is free from distinctions between cause and effect, although he is the cause and effect of everything. And that unmanifested person, who is beyond the perception of the senses, had now appeared as a human child. And Mother Yashoda, considering him as her own ordinary child, bound him to the wooden mortar with a rope. Yeah, we discussed this in the past, this verse. So, you see, in the Bhagavad Gita, in the after Chatur Shloki 10:12, Krishna is described as Param Brahma, Param Dhama. Srila Prabhupada gives example. So, Param Brahma means the greatest. Krishna is greater than the greatest, being unlimited and all pervading. So, how is it possible for the all pervading to be measured or bound? He pervades everything. So, Krishna is a time factor. Again, it's mentioned here. Therefore, he is all pervading, not only in space but also in time. You cannot bound Krishna. He's equal to everybody. Nobody can say that I'm greatest in material world, so I'm not going to grow old, or time does not affect me. It affects everyone. And we are limited by our past, present, and future. We have a past, we currently have a present, and we have future. So this means we are bound by time factor. Everything, all our Leelas have got background, past what has happened, currently what is happening, and the future what is going to happen. For Krishna, these do not exist. That's why his actions, even today, which have performed so much in the past, are relevant today also. It gives us pleasure as much as a pleasure it gave to the Gopas and Gopis. It should. We are not getting that much pleasure, actually. If we would, then we would not be stopping to think about Krishna. Excuse me, I'm talking about only myself. Yeah. You see, as an individual person, the whole universe manifested from his mouth. Is inconceivable. So, with this, we must conclude that this took place simply on the platform of pure love, transcendental love. There was no, that was the only cause. There was no other cause. So everything, Prabhupada then concludes this point, that everything, Advaitam, Achyutam, Anadim, Ananta Rupam, Adyam Puranam Purusham Navayauvanam Cha, Vedeshu Durlabham Adurlabham Atma Bhakto, Govindam Adi Purusham, Tamaham Bhajami. Brahma Samhita 533. So everything is one because Krishna is the supreme cause of everything. Krishna cannot be measured or calculated by Vedic knowledge. Vedeshu Durlabham. he is available only to the two devotees. That's very important. Durlabham Atma Bhakta. Devotees can handle him because they act on the basis of loving service. Bhaktya mam abhijanati. Yavan yashasmi tatvatah. Thus, Mother Yashoda wanted to bind him. See, devotees can handle him because they act on the basis of loving service. Bhaktya mam abhijanati. Yavam yashasmi tatvatah. This is the position of pure devotee. Mother Yashoda can control him. That's why he voluntarily bound to be controlled. Otherwise, by nature, he cannot be controlled. Unless and until he wants to be controlled, nobody can force him to be controlled. We have to understand this point. Nobody can force him to be controlled. Only out of pure love, he voluntarily gets controlled, and that is the reason why Mother Yashoda bound him, was able to bind him. This is the reason. Now the process is mentioned here. Tadadama badhyamanasya swarbhakasya krutaghasah devi angulam dvi angulonam abhut tena sandadhe anyacha gopika. Here comes, dvi angula unam. So dvi angula means by the measurement of two fingers, dvi angulam. Unam means short. So when Mother Yashoda was trying to bind the offending child, she saw that the binding rope was short by a distance the width of two fingers. Thus, she brought another rope to join to it. Here starts, So Prabhupada mentions that here is the first chapter in Krishna's exhibition of unlimited potency to Mother Yashoda. When she tried to bind him, the rope was too short. See, Krishna had already shown his unlimited potency by killing Putana, Shaktasur, Trunavarta, already, as a toddler. Even a small child in the cradle, Now Krishna exhibited another vibhuti or display of the potency, to Mother Yashoda. What is that he's displaying? He says, unless I agree, Krishna desired to show, you cannot bind me. Do you understand? This was not spoken. See, so far we understand this point that when Krishna decides to agree, that means Mother Yashoda is bound, right? Binds him. But here, understanding is, see, unless I agree, Prabhupada mentions this. You cannot bind me. So if we all want to become Mother Yashoda Nand Maharaj, then we will be bound by Krishna immediately. Krishna's Maya. We cannot. We can just follow in the footsteps as we discussed. We cannot copy them. Anusharan. So, thus, although Mother Yashoda, in her attempt to bind Krishna, added one rope after another, ultimately she was a failure. So when Krishna agreed, however, she was successful. In other words, one must be in transcendental love with Krishna. But that does not mean that one can control Krishna. Understand this point. When Krishna is satisfied with one's devotional service, he does everything himself. I'll repeat this point again. In other words, Prabhupada writes, one must be in transcendental love with Krishna. That is our position. But that does not mean that one can control Krishna. This is our understanding. When Krishna is satisfied with one's devotional service, he does everything himself. That is the point to understand. Sevan mukhe jihvado swayam eva spurati adaha. He reveals more and more to the devotee as the devotee advances in service. Jihvado, the service begins with the tongue while chanting and while taking prasadam for Krishna. This is in the nectar of instruction also. Yes. So this is a very famous verse, no? Ata Shri Krishna ka namadi na bhaved grahyam indriyahi sevan mukhehi jihvado swayam eva spurati adaha. Translation here is that therefore material senses cannot appreciate Krishna's holy name, form, qualities, and pastimes. When a conditioned soul is awakened with Krishna consciousness and renders service by using his tongue to chant the Lord's holy name and taste the remnants of the Lord's food, the tongue is purified, and one gradually comes to understanding who Krishna really is. I'll repeat again. Therefore, material senses cannot appreciate Krishna's holy name, form, qualities, and pastimes. When a conditioned soul is awakened to Krishna consciousness and renders service by using his tongue to chant the Lord's holy name and taste the remnants of the Lord's food, the tongue is purified and one gradually comes to understand who Krishna really is. So this is basically this particular verse. Ata Shri Krishna Namadi na bhavet grahyam indriyahi sivan mukhehi jivado swayam eva spurati adaha. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 17:136 and is also referred to in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1-234. Yes. Now Mother Yashoda is not trying hard, Yada sed atad api nyunam tenan yad api sandadhe tadapi dvangulim nyaunam yad adat bandhanam. That means this two rope, this new rope which she brought, also was short by a measurement of 2 fingers. And when another rope was joined to it, it was still 2 fingers too short. As many ropes as she joined, all of them failed. Their shortness could not be overcome. And then Mother Yashoda joined whatever ropes were available in the household. But still, she failed in her attempt to bind Krishna. Mother Yashoda's friends, the elderly gopis in the neighborhood, were smiling and enjoying the fun. Similarly, Mother Yashoda, although laboring in that way, were also smiling. All of them were struck with wonder, What's happening? So actually, this incident was wonderful because Krishna was only a child with small hands. To bind him should have required only a rope not more than about 2 feet long. All the ropes in the house combined together might have been hundreds of feet long. But still, he was impossible to bind. So all the ropes together were still too short. So naturally, Mother Yashoda and all the other gopis thought, how is this possible? Seeing this funny affair, all of them were smiling. So the first rope was short by measurement of width of 2 fingers. And after the second rope was added, it was still 2 fingers too short. If the shortness of all the ropes were added together, it must have amounted to the width of hundreds of fingers. Because each of them were 2 fingers too short. So if all these ropes were added together, so many 2 fingers too short would have been would add up. So this was astonishing. This was another exhibition of Krishna's inconceivable potency to his mother and his mother's friends. So Krishna, because of Mother Yashoda's hard labor, her whole body became overcovered with perspiration, and the flowers and comb were falling from her hair. So when the child Krishna saw his mother had thus fatigued, his mother thus fatigued, he became merciful to her and agreed to be bound. So when Mother Yashoda and the other ladies finally saw that Krishna, although decorated with so many bangles and other jeweled ornaments, could not be bound with all the ropes available in the house. Do you understand one thing? It is astonishing to see that when Krishna was wearing a bangle, the bangle comes in his hands, fitted very nicely. When he's wearing jewelry, necklace, and all that, it fits in his neck very nicely. But the rope is not being bound. Unfathomable. So this is what they couldn't fathom, you know. With all the ropes in the house, they're tying up, they couldn't. All 2 inches too short, all of them 2 inches too short. And we became so many, hundreds of 2 inches too short, you know. So that's why they thought that Krishna was so fortunate that he could not be bound by any material condition. They decided to, you know. Thus, they gave up the idea of binding him. My God, you know, there's too much. But in competition between Krishna and his devotees, Krishna sometimes agreed to be defeated. This is the point. He sometimes agrees to be defeated out of pure love because he loves it to be defeated by devotees. He likes when devotees defeat him. He likes when his gopas sit on his shoulders and say, "Hey, Krishna, what? You're powerful. They say you are God. I'm sitting on your shoulder. What you can do? You can do nothing about me." And Krishna agrees, "Yes, that's right. They don't know, you know, I'm not God, you know." Don't tell them that I'm not God. You defeated me, you know. Thus, Krishna's internal energy, Yog Maya, was brought to work, and Krishna agreed to be bound by Mother Yashoda. See, as we discussed, that Krishna always works in his internal potency, you know. So, if we want to get under the influence of Krishna, then we also will have to change our energy where we are operating from external to internal energy. Otherwise, this material world will always going to baffle us. Completely, it will baffle us. Evam sandarshita yanga harina brutya vashyata. Excuse me. Evam sandarshita yanga harina brutya vashyata swavashenapi krishnena yasyedam sheshwaram vase. So, O Maharaj Parikshit, this entire universe, with its great exalted demigods like Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, and Lord Indra, is under the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yet the Supreme Lord has one transcendental attribute. What is that? He comes under the control of his devotees. This is how this was now exhibited by Krishna in his pastime. See, so Maharaj Parikshit says, you know, he gives answer. He relates this that this entire universe, with its great exalted demigods like Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, and Lord Indra, is under the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yet the Supreme Lord has one transcendental attribute. What is that? He comes under the control of his devotees. Thus, this was now exhibited by Krishna in his pastime. So this pastime of Krishna's is very difficult to understand. So we are all Indian bodies, you know. So we have grown up with this kind of pastime. So it's very easy for us to grapple with it. But for a cynical person who is not in the Indian body, they're not able to understand these things. They would try to logicize things, you know, put logic everywhere. And you cannot add logic in Krishna consciousness. Although you require logic to understand Krishna, but you cannot measure Krishna by logic. That's the point. There's a point to understand. Add, you cannot put Krishna, understand Krishna by logic. Although you require logic, here's logic to understand Krishna. But we don't worry about the logic. We just love Krishna. As Prabhupada says, enough of you thinking about this and that, you know. That's why, if you see, Prabhupada says you Western American and European boys and girls, boys, you want to change everything all the time. Why do you want to change things? We Indians are used to not changing, man. You go to the place in the village, it still is the same, works the same way. Now, of course, there are all this so-called development taking place, you know. So buildings are broken, new buildings are coming up. But in the Western world, everything is changing all the time. Every 10 years, change. Road, change. Building, change. Skyscraper, change. This is change. That is change. You know, even Google changes every 1 year, 2 years. You know, email changes. Hotmail changes. Bank account changes. Bank how they show themselves changes. It's working so nicely, man, for the change. And they say we are doing it for the betterment of the community, customers. No, they are doing betterment to save their money. So pastimes of Krishna's is very difficult to understand, but devotees can understand it. It is therefore said, Darshayam stad vidam loka atmano bhaktya pasyatam. Prabhupada mentions this, you know. So Lord displays the transcendental attribute of coming under the control of his devotees. See, by his plenary portion as Paramatma, the Lord controls innumerable universes with all its demigods. Yet he agrees to be controlled by a devotee. How strange it is. It's very difficult. Those people who do not know Krishna at all, who have no conception of Krishna, for them to understand this point is impossible. That's why they cannot become devotees. And that's the advantage of being Indian bodies. If you take advantage, if at all, you know. And with Prabhupada's mercy, anyone who reads his books has got the advantage too. So in the Upanishads, it is said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead can run with more speed than the mind, you know. This is mentioned here in the Sri Upanishad, this particular verse. But here it is said that although Krishna wanted to avoid being arrested by his mother, he was finally defeated, and the mother Yashoda captured him. Is it not contradictory? He wanted to run away from her, but still she captured him. How is it so? Where he cannot be captured? Now, Lakshmi Sahasra Shat Sambrahma Sevyamanam. Krishna is served by hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune. Nonetheless, he steals butter like one whose poverty is stricken. How can one understand this? See, Yamraj, the controller of all living entities, fears the order of Krishna. Yet Krishna's mother is afraid of his mother's stick. So these contradictions, you know, it cannot be understood by one who's not a devotee. But a devotee can understand how powerful is unalloyed devotional service to Krishna. He's so powerful that Krishna can be controlled by an unalloyed devotee. That's it. So devotee can understand how powerful the unalloyed devotional service is to Krishna. It is so powerful that Krishna can be controlled by that an unalloyed devotee. So this Bhrutya Vashyata does not mean that he is under the control of the servant. Rather, understand this point. Rather, he is under the control of the servant's pure love. This is the point to be understood. Nothing else. This point has to be digested. So when he became subordinate to his devotees, this is a display of Ananda Chinmaya Rasa, the humor of transcendental qualities that increases his transcendental pleasure. We say that his body is such as Ananda, So it keeps on increasing this Ananda. His capacity to enjoy is far greater than all living beings put together. Still, he's wanting to enjoy more. He creates more and more living beings for his pleasure. So everyone worships Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead, and therefore he sometimes desires to be controlled by someone else. Such a controller can be no one else but a pure devotee. I think we should stop here. What we discussed. Does anyone have anything to say? Please feel free. No? Okay, thank you very much. So we will conclude today's discussion with this then. Jai Shila Gurudev ki Jai. Word to word synonymous translations and purport by Jagat Guru Shila Prabhupada. Jagat Guru Shila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai God Chandra Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Hare.
Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad
Jai.
Bhagavatam ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya
Jai.
Charitamrita ki Jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna. Okay, so I
Hare-
think Matas also will be having some kind of discussion with their prasadam thing and all that. And Krishna willing, we will have our um, yeah, we'll meet on Saturday for our Sunday for our festival of Krishna for Srila Prabhupada's Disappearance Day. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you. Hare.